Hey guys, happy Friday. Hope everybody is doing well out there. On this channel, we spend a lot of time talking about self-hosting applications, but we've kind of skipped some steps and we've never actually talked about networking hardware. Luckily, a company called MeshForce reached out and offered to sponsor a series of videos where we take a look at 4 different mesh network home router systems. Now, if you're not familiar with what a mesh system is, so think of a home network, a traditional home network, as having a single router that's placed strategically in the house, and hopefully all of the devices can connect to that easily. Now, a mesh network is very similar to that, except that there are multiple nodes that get placed throughout the house to build a mesh network where your devices can hop from one device to another as you move from room to room. So of course, because MeshForce is sponsoring this video, they've actually got a special deal in the description down below where you can pick up one of their 3-node mesh network systems for less than $150 when you use the Amazon coupon that's available in tandem with the discount code that's available in the description down below. So in this video, the first system that we're going to take a look at is the TP-Link Deco Home Mesh Network System. Now I've got a set of the M5 nodes and they look good. I mean, the reality is they kind of look like smoke detectors, but if that's your thing, that's cool. That's what they look like. Setup was very, very easy. The first one just got a power plug and a network plug that goes into my my modem. All of the subsequent nodes were easy to set up as they only required a power supply, and from there the setup process connects them to the main node to get all of the data back and forth. So what I want to kind of cover in these videos isn't so much the setup process, because what I've discovered is once you've set up one mesh network system, you've basically set them all up. They're very, very similar. You plug them in, you open the app, you set it up. It's very, very straightforward. We don't need to go into a lot of detail on that. So what I want to cover in these videos is administering the network, both from the desktop as well as your cell phone or tablet, and then also the speeds that you can expect to get, or at least what I managed to get from these different mesh systems. So let's go ahead and jump over to my desktop where we'll take a look at the desktop administration for the TP-Link Deco M5. So here we are, we're logged in and we can see that we've got a network map of sorts. We've got our main node right here, and then we've got 2 different nodes connected to it directly or over Wi-Fi. Below that, we can see that our device name, because we're highlighted on living room 1, that's the device name. We've got a MAC address, we've got the LAN IP. That is the one that all of the devices will get their IP from if you're using DHCP. Below that, we've got our host network. Now, what you may notice here is that we're only seeing one network. That's because of the way mesh networks work, they kind of like to run 2.4 and 5 gigahertz alongside each other so that devices can hop back and forth to get the strongest signal for wherever they happen to be in the home. Now, you can still set up, smart devices, IoT devices, that sort of thing, just by using the 5 gigahertz network, because the M5, the Deco system, is smart enough to know what the device is and allow it to jump onto that 2.4 gigahertz network pretty seamlessly. In fact, I actually had this set up in my house for about a week or a week and a half and had it as my primary network for that time until I ran into a bit of an issue that we will touch on later. So all you're going to see in here is, like I said, that one wireless network. You can also turn on a guest network. I don't have that enabled. If you were to turn on the guest network, I believe you'd see that here as well. And then below that, we've got our performance for CPU load and memory usage. It looks like just kind of an idle state. I've only got 2 devices connected. We can see the CPU load is at 20, and memory, oh, there it goes. It dropped way down right there. And memory usage is at 55%. So just passing network information back and forth, these numbers look really, really good. Now, if we come over, we can take a look at the master node, the master bedroom node here. Here you can see that it's got the name, the new IP address for that device, MAC address, everything else here is about the same. Same for the other bedroom, same basic information here. Now, if we come over to this advanced tab here, we can see the status of the entire network. For the status is online, our internet connection type, that's it. The internet connection type is it talking to our modem, and the modem actually has a dynamic IP set up on it, so that's what we're seeing here. The IP address from the modem is what we're seeing here with the subnet mask, default gateway, primary DNS. We can change that, but what you'll notice is we can't change it here. One of the downsides to the Deco M5 system, in my opinion, is that basically all of the administration has to be done on a phone or tablet device. For me, that was kind of a letdown. just because I like to be able to administer things on my desktop. It's just easier. I've literally been doing it that way for like 20 years now. So having to do it on my phone, I'm sure that's how things are headed, but I like to be able to just do things on my desktop when available. Unfortunately, the Deco doesn't allow us to do that. Below that, we can see more network information here. Here it does say that we've got the 2.4 network, or the 2.4 gigahertz network on channel 10. Our 5 gigahertz is on channel 48. And it looks like we also have a DB Tech guest, but those are both turned off. Unfortunately, I guess we've also got system over here, where we can take a look at the firmware. We can update firmware from the desktop. That's good, especially in the case that maybe your firmware gets corrupted or something like that and disables the wireless nodes. This would be a good way to jump in there and update the firmware. That way, you can select your device, and then you can browse for a firmware package that you may have on your desktop, and then you can click upgrade and go from there. Also, you can just come down here and click check for upgrades, and it'll tell you if there's a new version available. I just did this very recently, so all of your software is up to date. That's good. Glad to see that. Now below that, we've got our system logs. We can separate this out by type of logs that we may want to see. And we can actually search for different things. We can save our logs. We can clear and refresh, that sort of thing. This is all very basic stuff. Time settings, we're in North America, close to Denver. Reboot, we can do that right from here. Again, glad that that's available on the desktop environment, even if most of the other important stuff isn't. And then the system parameters, we can enable these, the IGMP and WAN unicast. I'm not sure what those are for, so I haven't enabled them. I've never needed them. Not going to worry about it for right now. I will say, unfortunately, that's all of the administration you get on the desktop. Unfortunately, everything else has to be done on the phone. So let's actually jump over to my phone and take a look at what that looks like. All right, so if we open the Deco app, here we can see this is what our dashboard initially looks like, where we've got the option to click on Internet. Here we can see that all of our Decos are online. In fact, if we click on any of these, we can get some more information about each one. Right now, this is the node that's in the living room. My PC and my phone are connected to it. But if I were to say go to one of the bedrooms, I could click on that and see that I would be connected to that node as well, or instead of the bedroom or the living room. So it will actually show you what devices are connected to which nodes. So if there's a problem, you can go to that node and correct it. So if we come back to the home screen here, we can kind of take a look. We've got here we've got a couple of devices, and this will be everything that is connected to the entire network when we look at these network devices here. And of course, we've got the option to look at multiple networks if we had multiple networks set up. Also on this screen, we can click up here. That's not going to really do anything, but we can get some more information about the app. And then if we click on antivirus, I really do dig this. This will actually proactively scan all of the devices that are on your network and look for virus activity and malicious content on the net, on the internet, things like that. It will actually go so far as to quarantine devices on the network to not infect, or to hopefully not infect, other devices on said network. This is actually the reason that I ended up choosing this device over some of the others for the first couple of weeks of doing all of this testing, because I really liked the idea of having this quarantine option for infected devices. So let's go back over to here. So let's see, we can take a look at parental controls. If we wanted to have any parental controls, we can turn that on. We can give it a name. We'll say test, close enough. Say next. And then we can choose what kind of a filtering level we want. And then we can decide what we want to turn on and off by category. We can also go in and add different kinds of keywords and URLs and things like that to block specific websites, apps, that sort of thing. So if we come back out of profiles there, next thing we can do is come over here and take a look at smart actions. If you've got IoT devices and things like that, you can actually have lights turn on and off when you're, let's say one of your phones connects to your network. It will automatically turn the lights on, or if your phone disconnects, it'll automatically turn the lights off. You can do little automations and things like that with this setup, which I really, really dig. Beyond that, we can come into here. This is where we're going to spend most of our time, I believe. this is what should be on the desktop environment as well, in my opinion. Unfortunately, it's not. So let's kind of dig through this and take a look. So if we go to Wi-Fi, here we can see all of our network settings here. We can turn 2.4 and 5 gigs on and off. We can change the network name, password. We can turn the guest network on and off. Or if we wanted to, we could actually share all of that information basically any way we'd like to. So let's go back. We can test our internet connection from here, and this is powered by Speed Test. Let's just go ahead and click that. I believe this may take a little while, so I'll probably just have to skip through to the end of this just to not waste everybody's time here. Okay, so there we go, 351 megs down and 13 megs up. Pretty good. So that's actually pretty accurate as far as what my connection looks like. So that's good to see. Blacklist, we can go in here. We can actually blacklist devices. If we see somebody connecting to our network that we don't want to connect, we can blacklist them, keep that from happening. Again, we can update all of our devices from here. Under update deco, everything's up to date, so we're good to go there. Advanced, let's come back to advanced. WPS, if you wanted to just allow somebody to connect to the network, normally there's a WPS button on your router. This lets us do that digitally. We can actually, on each device, we can press WPS from here and let somebody connect to the network that way. Again, we've got parental controls, profiles. We've already kind of talked about that. As far as how we want to do profiles for parental controls, we've already taken a look at the antivirus, so that's what that is. Quality of service. We can actually adjust the way our network works based on what kind of stuff we're doing at the moment. Streaming is pretty much what we do here. So we can set that. That looks good. We'll click Save. And then we've got the option to set devices for high priority. I could do both of those and come back. Oops. Oops, sure does help if I click Done right there. And now both of those devices will be high priority. So there we go. That's, so let's see. That's basically everything for QoS. Monthly, we can take a look at reports for usage and just stuff that's happened on the network here. So we'll come back. Managers, if you want to have multiple people be able to manage your network, you can have them set up a Deco account through TP-Link and add them as a manager here. And that pretty much takes care of all of that. Now let's go back to advanced. Since we skipped that, we're going to spend a fair amount of time in advanced. So our IPv4 rather, this is again what we saw on the desktop, where we can set our dynamic or our IP to be either dynamic or static from our modem. But if we come in here and we select this, we change dynamic to, let's say, static. This is where we could actually go in and set our primary and secondary DNS. Let's say you've got something like a Pi-hole or an ad blocker of some sort of network-based ad blocker. You could put the DNS entries in here. Unfortunately, you can't do that when you're on a dynamic IP. I guess you can. You can turn dynamic, or you can turn DNS off automatically. So you've got a couple of different ways that you can set up your DNS for some additional protection on your network there. Let's say leave. Let's go back here. We can turn IPv6 on if we want to. Our LAN information here, we can set what our LAN IP should look like, as well as our subnet mask. Our DHCP server, this is where we're going to start our IP and end our IP addresses. Again, you can set DNS options here as well. IPTV and VLAN, I've never messed with. I don't want to talk on that because I'm not familiar with what that is. Just know that it is an option if you're interested in that. If your internet company requires a certain MAC address for your network, you can actually enable MAC clone and clone from a different device to make sure that your modem works appropriately. You can set up address reservation if you wanted to have specific devices maintain their IP address. You can set those just like I did there with those two devices. Port forwarding, of course, we're going to spend a lot of time, well, we won't in this video, but this is where we would spend a lot of time going in and saying, like HTTP, our external port would be 80, and then we would select our computer there, our server, our internal port there would be 80, and then for all protocol, we can select TCP, UDP, or all. So go ahead and select done. And then, of course, we'd also want to do the same thing probably with, port 443. So we'll do HTTPS 443. We'll select our device, and then we'll select our internal port, which will also be 443. And now we've actually done all of our port forwarding on the network for both regular and secure connections over the internet there. So that's how easy it is to set up port forwarding. If you wanted to use TP-Link's DDNS, so you could have your whatever domain.tplinkdns.com, you could do that here. I like to use, of course, domains that I buy from Porkbun and Cloudflare to manage all of my DNS stuff. So SIG ALG, I'm not actually sure what that is. So that they can communicate with SIP devices via NAT. So that's what that is. UPnP is enabled. You can enable or disable that from there. Fast roaming. Now I actually had to disable fast roaming on here because I ran into issues with using Chromecast. Apparently Chromecast doesn't like fast roaming on a network. When you've got that enabled, Chromecast craps itself. So I had to turn off fast roaming on all of these mesh networks in order to get our Chromecast devices to work appropriately. Beamforming, I'd like to have that on because it concentrates Wi-Fi signals towards connected devices. So that's what beamforming is. LED control, you can turn that on or off. You can also have it set to night mode, and you can say when do you want night mode to be enabled. Operating mode can be either router or it can be an access point. If you just wanted to add these to an existing router system, you could do that just by switching this to access point. Connection alerts, we can get those through push notifications or email if you wanted to do that. This is anytime a new device connects, you can get a notification to let you know that there's a new device on the network. Very, very handy there. You can also say if you want to get devices for known or alerts for known devices, you can turn that on and off as well. And then notifications, you can determine which of these notifications you'd like to receive at any given time just by turning these on and off individually. That's pretty much everything under advanced, I believe. Okay guys, so now that we've covered kind of how to administer the network, both via the desktop, what little is available there, as well as the app on my phone. Of course, the big question is what kind of wireless speeds can I expect to get with this system? So I actually drew up in Photoshop kind of a layout of my house. So if we take a look here, position 1 right here is where my main node sits. So this 180 is about what I was able to get while connected to the living room network node. When I move over here to this bedroom where I've got another one of these nodes, that dropped from 180 down to about 100, which was fine. Still good for streaming, laying in bed, messing around on your phone, playing on your tablet, whatever the case may be. This is still a very adequate number for what we do here as far as our network is concerned. And then we've got another one of these nodes out in another room over here that while at this position, kind of standing over here in this corner, I was able to get about 83 megabytes per second, or megabits per second rather. So overall, of course, you're going to see some degradation as you're going through walls and that sort of thing. The nice thing is that these repeaters kind of help amplify that a little bit and keep you from losing a ton of signal by going through different walls and that sort of thing. So overall, I'm actually, like I said, I had this set up for a couple of weeks, used it very, very extensively. Whole home network was set up on it for a couple of weeks, and it did a really good job until one day it didn't. I think it was just a random thing that happened. I was sitting here doing my thing online and noticed that I lost internet connection. And I looked over and the node was blinking. Instead of being a steady green color, I believe, it was blinking red, and that's a bad sign. That means it has lost its connection. So I ended up having to do a couple of factory resets. I ended up having to go and set up the entire network over again. About 10 minutes later, it did it again. And then so I went through that process a couple more times, and then it was fine. So I think it was just a hiccup in the network that caused that. I don't think it's a thing that's going to happen regularly, to be completely honest. It was a good point for me to say, okay, I've tested this network long enough. Now let's go over and take a look at a different network. And in next week's video, we're going to take a look at one of those other networks. So I think that pretty much wraps up kind of my initial thoughts, or my thoughts on the TP-Link Deco M5. Overall, very happy. Again, the aesthetic looks like a smoke detector. So as long as you're okay with that, very cool little device. I'll have a link to this in the description down below. Also, like I said, this video was sponsored by MeshForce. They've also got a special deal for you that I will have in the description down below as well, where you can pick up one of their 3-node mesh systems for less than $150 through the end of the year. So big shout out to MeshForce. Thanks so much for sponsoring these videos. It's much appreciated. But I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up here. As always, thanks for your time. I always appreciate your support, and I'll talk to you in the next video.